Simon wrapped his hand across his face, his thumb and forefinger pressing into his temples. Christ, he had a headache. And Daphne, dear God, she kept moving closer. She reached out and touched his shoulder, then his cheek. He wasn't strong enough. Dear God, he wasn't going to be strong enough. Simon, she pleaded, save me. And he was lost. For me, that moment is like the hand.
The hand. It's the hand clench.
Because it's everything.
Clearly, we're doing Bridgerton. We're starting our Bridgerton journey. So
this is a journey.
This is a journey. We're starting with book 1, The Duke and I, which is the story of Daphne and Simon. So naturally, we're drinking the Dirty Duke martini, which is hilarious because we just did a martini for our 1-day episode.
Yeah.
But we did a dry martini. This is a filthy, dirty martini.
Ooh.
But a twist.
From a girl who knows nothing about cocktails, what's the difference between a dirty martini and a dry martini?
So a dry martini has a little bit of dry vermouth to no dry vermouth. Which sounds wild, right? Because you'd think the ingredients of a martini are classically gin, but some people do vodka.
Okay.
And dry vermouth with a garnish of a twist, lemon or lime, or an olive. When people say they want a dirty martini, they want the olive juice in there. We mixed it up because popular to this time was pickling vegetables, obviously, to make them last longer.
Fair, yeah.
So this is not my recipe. This is a recipe I saw at a bar that did a Bridgerton watch party for season 2. And they did gin, dry vermouth, pickle juice with a little gherkin pickle garnish and fresh dill in there. And I'm a pickle baby, so.
Okay, so cheers on this.
Yeah, cheers, cheers, cheers. And now let's talk about the Dirty, Dirty Duke.
Before we even dive into that, I just have to this is just a random fact about me. When it comes to drinks, I don't do savory cocktails.
Yes. Which is funny, though, because you kind of do. Ginger beer is considered savory.
I know. But what's weird is I have I don't even know what it would be considered, but I cannot drink, the tomato drink.
Bloody Mary?
Yeah, that you put.
Grosses me out.
Right, the V8, whatever.
Yeah, Bloody Mary.
I got
Disgusting.
bloody sick drinking that. Not cocktails. I was sick and was given a V8 to drink and got sick.
Off of the
and
V8?
now I cannot. Anything that's even remotely made with something like that. Ironically enough, I like tomato soup. I don't know why. But when it comes to the V8,
because it's hot.
Maybe.
I don't know.
But I cannot, the idea or the thought of drinking something that has any kind of, which for some reason when I think olives, I think the same.
I don't like olives, which is very funny, right? I love pickles.
Yeah.
I hate olives.
Yeah.
I hate them. But I'll eat an olive tapenade.
I love pickles.
I am a pickle hooker.
I could take a big pickle.
Same, sister. Same. I'm the person that if you're out to eat and I'm like, you gonna eat that pickle?
Yeah.
You best not say no pickles because I'll punch you. You say pickles on the side so I can eat it.
I used to get pickles from my grandma. My grandfather used to buy me those jars of Velocic.
Yeah, I'm a Clausen girl myself, but yes.
Just the brand that came up to my head.
Yeah.
This was the Deli Pickle Company, whatever that company was. I don't think it's Velocic.
The enormous ones?
They're massive.
Boar's head.
The
Boar's
girth
head
of those pickles.
Yeah, baby.
I don't know how I got
Size
off
matters
but
when it
I
comes
would
to
eat
pickles,
those
folks.
for snacks.
I still do. I when we go grocery shopping, I'm like, oh, do I need a jar of pickles? And it has to be the Clausen dill pickles.
Yeah, the ones that are in the refrigerator section. Yeah.
Bro, if you come at me with a bread and butter pickle, I will punch you.
Get out of here.
I will punch your firstborn child in the face.
Get out of here. Bread and butter.
That's disgusting.
Bread and butter.
You are
what
a
is that,
masochist.
your grandma's pickles?
You know who you are? You're Lady Featherington. That's who you are. If you know who eats bread and butter pickles? Lady Featherington.
Yeah, she does.
I actually feel kinda bad
Penelope
for her.
probably does too, though.
Oh, Penelope. She's about to have her comeuppance, which is why we are talking about the season 3 is coming out.
Back on topic. No more pickle talk. So Bridgerton,
we could talk about the Duke's pickle.
Yeah, we could. Although we don't get to see it, though, so we can't really talk
I'm
about
imagining it.
You know what's funny? This series has been around for a bit. And,
written by Julia Quinn?
Yep. And the book that we're talking about today was...
The Duke and I.
It came out... It was published in 2000. And it's the first of... I think there's 6...
8. 8.
Okay. 8.
I have in my notes 5. So we're killing it.
Of the Bridgerton storyline. And what I find really funny, and I feel like we just need to get this out there right away because it's something that's bugging the heck out of me and was bugging me until I figured it out. And then I was like, oh, okay, well, that's lame. I mean, it's not lame, but so Bridgerton obviously is speaking to the family, the Bridgertons. And this...
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. This story is specifically The Duke and I, which is the first book in the series. And there's 8 books. But what I found really fascinating is, so Netflix obviously is taking over the Bridgerton world, and they're doing each book as a season. Yeah. However, they're not doing it in order, and they're also having some very interesting creative freedoms with this series.
Shan't we say Queen Charlotte?
Yeah, Queen Charlotte.
She does not exist.
Well, she doesn't exist in the books.
No.
And the story that everyone knows now from Bridgerton, which is not season 3, it's actually its own separate
like an
thing.
Addendum.
It does not exist in Julia Quinn's timeline of books.
Which is set 1813 to 1827.
Yeah, and this is kind of the rabbit hole that I went down because I was like, I don't remember this story. I don't remember there being a Queen Charlotte. Like, I don't remember this, and it was driving me crazy. And then I realized, after just looking a little bit, that I wasn't crazy. It didn't exist. This book was written specifically for Netflix.
With Shonda Rhimes, you had said,
with
right?
Shonda Rhimes.
Yeah.
So the story is supposed to be the prequel to the Bridgerton storyline.
Yes.
So, okay, that's cool. That's fun. But it's kind of annoying because I think a lot of people assume that it was from the world and it wasn't originally. And another fact that I just need to throw out there because it's also driving me a little bit insane is the fact that the new season that's coming out, season 3, that everyone's super excited about and waiting for, follows Penelope and Colin.
Yes.
However, that is book number 4. That is not book number 3. So that's kind of interesting. That book has kind of just been pushed aside.
So this is the publishing history.
Yeah.
2000, The Duke and I, Daphne's story.
Yep.
2000, The Viscount Who Loved Me, Anthony's story.
Yes.
2001, Benedict's story, An Offer and a Gentleman. Number 4, Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, came out in 2002. That is Colin's story. And then you have To Sir Philip with Love, 2003. That's Eloise's story. That came out. That's book number 5. Number 6 is When He Was Wicked, 2004. Francesca's story. Number 7, It's in His Kiss, 2005 is Hyacinth's story. And then we end with Poor Gregory on the way to his wedding in 2006. But there's 9 short stories and 3 companion books written.
Yes.
So I had this in my notes. I pulled it from Wikipedia, but this is from Lady Whistledown Society Papers from The Duke and I. And it just talks about the Bridgertons. And it says, the Bridgertons are by far the most prolific family in the upper echelons of society. Such industriousness on the part of the Viscountess and the late Viscount is commendable, although one can only find banality in their choice of names of their children. Anthony, Benedict, Colin, Daphne, Eloise, Francesca, Gregory, and Hyacinth. Orderliness, of course. Beneficial in all things, but one would think that intelligent parents would be able to keep their children straight without needing to alphabetize their names. Lady Whistledown Society Papers. The Duke and I didn't realize, this is so embarrassing. I didn't realize that their names went A, B, C, D, E, F, G until the book when they're like, oh, obviously.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, Simon and Daphne have a baby.
Yeah.
And he's like, obviously it must start with the little letter A. We have, traditions to uphold. And I was like,
that's so funny.
Okay. I had no idea.
In the show, the Queen, the Queen, that one, she makes fun of the names, as in like, she couldn't remember her children's names, so she had to name them alphabetically.
Did you read this before you watched it? I did not.
Yes.
You did? Mm-hmm. Okay, because I watched. This is the amount of times I watched.
Yeah.
Read, watched again.
Yeah. Sorry. That's not true. I did not read this before I watched the show.
Oh, you watched it when it first came out?
Yes. I watched Bridgerton when it first came out, and then I read the book.
And then for this episode, we both read.
Yes.
And then watched. Okay.
Yes.
So,
but my confusion was I have known about this book series for quite some time. In fact, I have a copy of the original Bridgerton. I cannot find it, but I have the actual original book.
Can I make a plea to publishing houses?
Yes.
So this is published by Avon Books.
Yes.
Avon Books. I'm going to look in this camera. We do not want stickers.
Nope.
Printed on books.
No.
There is nothing.
I don't care about the fact that it's Netflix's Bridgerton.
Truly nothing more infuriating. I will not buy a book.
I know.
If it has a sticker on it.
If I'm being honest, when I bought this, I just bought this on Amazon. It didn't show that.
I can't find one without it.
Nope.
Although Dina from the Folktown podcast sent me these really beautiful versions of the book.
Yes.
They're in like these pastel shiny.
Are they out yet? They haven't been released yet.
I don't know. I saw them on a girl's bookshelf.
Yes.
She sent me like a bookshelf thing. I said, what are those books in the background? Can you zoom in for me, please?
They're doing, so the Duke and I, and then the Viscountess and Viscountette. Why can't I say that word?
Viscount who loved me.
The two books are together in a hard bound.
Oh, okay.
And they're, I think they're being released like in the year or something. So I had the book, but I never read it.
Okay. Well, I just want to say this. Book Daphne, I prefer over Show Daphne, because Show Daphne is supposed to be super perfect, super like dainty. But Book Daphne, she's a little snarky. She's a little sarcastic. Everyone says that she's like the guy's friends, and she's so kind of like a guy's girl.
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean? Like the way we would describe that now.
Yeah.
Where Show Daphne, gorgeous. Like so perfectly cast and petite and beautiful. And she has this little fire in her that you don't expect. But a little more delicate than Book Daphne.
To add to that, too, is in the book, Daphne's not supposed to be pretty. In fact, none of the girls in the family are necessarily pretty.
They're perfectly okay. Isn't that what they describe them as? Like perfectly fine or something like that.
Yet in the show, they're described as some of the most beautiful females. So it is an interesting kind of spin on it, because Daphne's whole drive in the book is the fact that she's not desirable.
Yeah.
In the show, she is desirable, but not in the way she wants to be.
And she's played by Phoebe Dynevor?
Yeah.
Gorgeous. Are you kidding me?
Also,
what a little angel. She literally looks like a tiny angel.
Yeah. And also, they did an incredible job. I'll give them this. The family casting, the siblings all look incredibly alike. Mm-hmm. I think that they did a really good job. The only casting that I, for some reason, like can't look past is Benedict and Antony. I think that they should be flipped, because Antony looks younger to me than Benedict. Benedict looks older to me. But obviously, I could not see those characters being flipped.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
It's just like age-wise, for some reason, Benedict just puts off just this very mature...
They're kind of Irish twins, though.
Yeah.
Looking at their little thing here, they're like a year and a half apart.
So maybe that's what it is. And he is definitely like, he's like a gentle soul. And like, well, I mean.
And now let's get to the most important part. Let's talk about our Duke.
Yes.
And Regé-Jean Page, who is just...
I mean, the casting...
you...
So, diving into the casting of the Duke is a perfect way to segue to just a little blip of why I believe Shonda Rhimes wanted to write the Queen story into the show. Because it gave her an in to place who she wanted as the Duke.
Yeah.
Because I think in that world, I'm going to be honest, it's very white. And so being able to open the door to a period piece, period being very loose, it's a made-up world, it gave them a really beautiful way to, like, be inclusive, but in a way that made sense.
Lady Danbury.
And not just like, oh, we have to be inclusive, so we need to throw in these characters.
No, Lady Danbury says in season 1, she says to Simon, she says, we fought so hard to be where we are in society and be respected as we are. Like, you've earned this.
Yes. And she brings up the queen too. That
and
like,
don't give up your title.
Yeah.
Because of your shit father.
Right.
When we have fought so damn hard to be here. Like, you deserve to be in this part of society. And also what I think is so beautiful is there is truly no moment in the show where you think that for any period of time, all ethnicities were not accepted. Because you have truly every ethnicity represented in the show, in the higher echelons of society, even the second season.
True. But
the girls are
Shonda's really good at that.
Very good at that.
She
does it seamlessly and as
she
it
knows.
should be.
She knows how to do it, and she does it in a way that, like, she's incredible. She is who she is because she knows what she's doing. And point in case, Bridgerton is like, it's got to be one of the largest grossing shows on Netflix.
I mean, let's see. Let's take a look. See, it is. Oh my gosh. Yeah, you're not kidding. It is probably Netflix's. The first season debuted. I didn't realize that it was Christmas in 2020. My God, did we need this?
I know.
We needed it.
I think that's why there was such a love for it. I will say when it first came out, I was so excited about the show that I told everybody about it, including my parents.
What are you thinking?
But it was before I got to certain scenes. And, well, I mean, literally the first episode.
Okay.
Anthony and Little Miss, I forget her name.
Opera singer.
Yeah. Well, they're getting frisky right away.
And you know what's so crazy is, like, she's a nobody in the books.
She doesn't exist.
She does for a little bit way down the line, but not in this first book.
No.
Okay, so I've been thinking about this pretty intently. So the first book is strictly Daphne and Simon, right? Like, you barely get anything. You get, like, I would say just like a
crumbles.
Just a little hint, a hint of each character's personality. But I respect kind of what they've had to do for Bridgerton. You and I were kind of texting about this. Is they kind of had to give more backstory to each character because they have to get you excited to continue watching the show and have attachment to the characters, right?
Something that they have to do. I mean, I think for any good novelist, right? You don't want to give away too much in a book. Yeah. Because obviously it's a book and you want people to continue buying your books. Whereas with the show, they're able to, there's a lot of depth put into
huge. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love the characters that they develop throughout the first season.
The cousin does not exist until Eloise's story.
Yeah.
The cousin that almost marries Colin Bridgerton.
I mean, if we're being completely honest.
What's her name? Mar something?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Eloise doesn't have a part in the first book.
No, and like, Eloise might be my favorite Bridgerton.
Yeah, and she's like mentioned, but same with Penelope. The only time that Penelope is brought up in the book is when the Duke dances with her, just so he doesn't have to dance with the other two sisters.
And also, you like really love him because he's like, ew, your mother's a fucking awful human being for making you feel so bad about yourself.
Yeah.
I'm going to dance with you and none of your sisters.
Yes.
Mrs. Feathering is so odious. She's disgusting. And in the book, her husband's dead already. She's a widow. Mm-hmm. And in the show, he dies.
He dies, yes. I think
after gambling their fortunes away.
But again, like their story is such a small blip of what's going on in the book. Like they're mentioned, they're brought up.
Yes.
They're, talked about, but the focus is for sure Daphne and her brothers, and then Simon.
Yeah.
And also her mom, I feel like, has a much bigger part in the book.
Huge part.
Like, she has a pretty decent role in the show, and I love the mom, the actress.
Oh, the actress that plays the mom is so wonderful.
She's literally...
She's just like a perfect mom.
Did you pick up, like, in the book, the mom felt a little bit meaner?
100%.
Whereas...
This mom is so...
She's just so maternal.
Maternal and loving
And I think, like, not that the mom isn't maternal, because that's a very large plot point throughout, is the fact that Daphne comes from an incredibly loving family. And
Simon does not.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I also really appreciated the way that they bring Lady Danbury in to the show, whereas in the book, she's a very tiny part.
She's a tiny part, but you know that she was big in Simon's life when he was younger.
Yeah.
But
not in the way
she is now. Like in the books, the person that helps Simon overcome his stutter is a nurse, where in the show, it's Lady Danbury.
Hopkins.
Yeah.
Hopkins.
That's cute.
That's
but
cute.
You also notice that in the show, he's completely his stutter's gone. He's overcome that struggle in his life.
Yeah.
Where in the book, it's still there, but he has to fight to cover it up. And that's why when he gets very emotional, he doesn't talk. And everyone in society thinks that he's like very stoic and kind of a dick.
Yes.
But he's just not talking because he's going to stutter because he's having an emotional reaction to something.
Because he's an incredibly emotional guy.
Yeah.
And you see a lot more of that in the book, where in the show, you get it.
Not as much,
but you don't see it the way you do in the book. Like, there's a constant, like, turmoil that he's dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
Almost every interaction with Daphne, he wants to jump her bones. You don't get that until later on in the show. Like, once they decide to do their thing, there's
You know what part I love? That does not happen in the book. When they're in the garden, she asks Simon what happens in the marital act.
Oh, yeah.
And he tells her to go home and touch herself.
Fair.
Yo, that does not happen in the book, but I was like, whoa, steamy.
Wait, but I do have my favorite quote. Wait, let me see if I can find it. This is chapter 11, page 224. And this is what Simon says. Simon took her hand and raised it to his lips. I assure you, he muttered, flicking his tongue down the line of her middle finger. I am perfectly able to satisfy you in bed. Daphne suddenly found it difficult to breathe. And when had the room grown so hot? I'm not sure I know what you mean. He yanked her into his arms. You will. That... in the book.
Lord. Good Lord.
And that's the scene where they're in the hotel,
which is like one of my favorite book tropes, the one bed.
Girl, also, can we find the line? The burn line? What's
I'll burn for you?
Yeah.
The one from the show?
Yeah, the one from the show. Because he doesn't say it in the book. He just thinks it.
He thinks it. And like we found I just want you guys to know what Dayelle and I did. We took turns going through the book to find places where they use the word burn. Because we're like, why would they settle on this?
What was it that brought it up? But he uses that word numerous times in
oh my God,
his head. But he never says it to her. He says it to her in the show.
So... oh, this is very interesting. That line, I burn from you, is originally from the Viscount Who Loved Me, which is the next one we're doing.
Yeah. Wait, we also, I mean, like in the show, you remember that scene where he's like standing in the library.
And she's, okay.
And he goes, I burn for you.
Okay, so this is, okay. Give me a moment here. So this is the...
Fanya.
Okay, in... the world of Bridgertons. This came out in 2020, right?
Yeah.
This is about the time I downloaded TikTok.
Yeah. Fair.
This is a perfect segue into this for me.
Yeah.
There were two young ladies called Bear and Barlow. That's what they go by. And they're best friends. One of them is a singer and writes songs. And the other is an incredible pianist and composer. And they were obsessed with Bridgerton. And they said, wouldn't it be fun to like write songs for Bridgerton as if it were a musical?
Yeah.
Now, this is very controversial because they did get into a bit of trouble for it. But let me telleth you, folks, go listen to the I Burn For You song.
Oh my gosh.
It is.
It's so good. It's so good. Maybe we insert that a little bit.
Yeah.
A little tidbit of that.
Simon, I know you don't feel the same, but I burn for you. You burn for me. I burn, I burn, I burn, I burn for you. I burn, you burn for me.
And also the so the way that the album is written, it's written like the show goes, like in order episode, and that
Of the first season.
But that first song about Lady Whistledown, it's
so
it's
good.
It's a season, beautiful weddings.
It's
It's just so good. So if you guys want to like really get immersed into it, it makes me feel like I'm there.
Yes.
Like, oh my
It has.
it is a musical.
Yes.
I'm so sad it's not going to be one.
Yeah. Maybe one day it will be,
Maybe.
but not probably by them.
Not by them.
But
'Cause the
worth
songs are
a listen.
so
It's on Spotify. Go listen to it. I experienced it for the first time.
But okay, so that might be, in recent memory, one of the hottest scenes.
Yes.
When I think we should just talk about this overarching. It's a very, 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 very big theme in this book.
Yes.
These women during this time
Yes.
have no idea
Yep.
what sex is,
Or any marital.
what a penis is,
Yep.
what their vagina is for.
Right.
They don't even know how a baby is made.
Nope.
This girl is
20.
20 years old
Yes.
and has no idea.
None.
And the night of her wedding,
Yeah.
her mother says, you're going to have to engage in a marital act.
Yeah.
Good luck. I'm so glad I just talked about that when 4 people are walking by, strangers. But that's it.
Yeah.
And what I love in the book, it's so cute. She's like, oh my God, I've been waiting for this. Tell me more. Tell me more. Tell me more. And the mom's like, no, that's it.
The mom is so
She's
awkward.
so embarrassed.
It's so funny. I love the way that they do that in the show, because the mom comes in and she just like sits down next to her and you can see she's so nervous. And then when she thinks Daphne's like understanding, she's like, oh yeah, exactly. That's it. And she's like, but that's not. She's like, but I don't but Mom, I don't.
And the mom's like, okay, great. You've got this.
That's perfect.
Good luck.
See ya.
But in both book and movie, Simon is such a good teacher. And I actually... This is weird background noise when you're talking about getting finger blasted. But this is where we're at, folks. But book Simon basically says, I'll teach you. Like, I'll teach you everything you want to know. And like the line you just read. But show Simon is like, lay down. I'm going to show you right now.
Yeah.
Which is steamier. Like, I didn't expect the book to be as like graphic as it was.
Yeah, it is. Well,
I thought it was going to be very glossed. Like,
have you read the second one yet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But the first one, I didn't know what to expect, right? Because I had just watched the first 2 seasons.
Yeah.
I really didn't know what to expect.
Yeah. It's good.
Because I was like, well, they Netflixed it, right? So it's not going to be. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Julia.
Yeah.
I see you, girl.
Yeah, she gets
She
there.
did it.
She goes, and she only gets dirtier.
That's my girl. But I was really, 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 really surprised, I think is the fair word.
Okay.
Okay, so we're talking about book to movie, right? This was the whole point of the podcast. I didn't think so much of the book was going to transfer to the show. Like, obviously, they took some creative liberties. I think they kind of had to, right? For what they're setting up for, like, this is a world now. This isn't just like it's like a Game of Thrones for Netflix, essentially.
Oh, and they have so many books.
So many to do. But I will say, a lot is given away in the book that is not given away in the show.
Yes.
Spoilers, if you don't want to hear what happens here.
Mm-hmm.
Colin and Penelope get together. And the end of the book, the second prologue, Colin and Penelope come to visit with all of their children because their youngest child isn't speaking yet. Mm-hmm. And they bring it to Simon to see if they can have any advice. And the way that he just says, just love him.
Yeah.
And that's all he needs. Oh, God, it was so beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a huge, throughout the whole book, that's exactly why he's so broken.
Yeah.
He's just looking for love and doesn't know that. Like, he doesn't know that that's what he's missing.
Revenge is like what he's spending his whole life seeking. Yeah. Like, I'm going to just,
Anger is fueling
and revenge.
Him. Yeah.
But in the book, I really like, I don't remember the line exactly, but when she says to him, like, in the show, I believe she says, with the, the anger you have towards your father is greater than the love you have for me, so you won't give me a child.
Yeah.
But in the book, she really digs at the point that, like, your father's in our bed every night.
Yeah.
Like, when you and I are making love,
yeah,
your father's here in the room with us.
Even though he's dead.
Yeah. You're letting him be in the room with us. And he's like, I would never, like, sounds so disgusting, but he is.
Yeah.
And just
he's controlling every aspect of our lives. Of course.
Yeah. And the way she's like, you took advantage of my naivete. And he did, but just the fact that women were so naive. And then on the other side of the town, you got the fun ladies. That's where I'd be.
Yeah.
Over at Modiste. Banging dudes at parties.
At the art parties.
Yeah.
Which also aren't in the book. That's not in the book either.
Yet. We don't know.
True.
We haven't gotten to his story yet.
I will say one thing that I didn't know how to, like, broach, because it's something that I actually felt really icky about, and in the book it's done very similarly, but the aftermath is slightly different. So, like, the scene where Simon, so in the show, Simon and Daphne get it on, and Daphne takes control and forces Simon to come inside of her.
I wasn't sure how to talk about that.
And in the book, Simon comes home drunk.
Hammered, because they fought about it, and he's asking for her back.
And
she fully takes advantage of him.
Like, he's out cold.
He is unconscious.
And she starts,
climbs on top and gets him going.
And he, of course, wants it because he's a man, and that's how it works. And she clearly makes him come inside of her.
But he asks her to stop in the book
several times,
and she doesn't stop. She, like, pins him down.
And at first, like, you're kind of like in the mind of Daphne, and at first she's just so into it that she's just feeling all the feelings, and she's like, wow, this is so different than it's ever felt before. Like, what is going on? Like, why am I...
Also, good for you, girl.
And then when he's like, Daphne, no, no. And then she doesn't stop. I had a really hard time with that.
Same. Because I think because also we had seen the show and seen how it played out in the show.
Yeah.
Was a little bit different. He was a more willing participant in the show. It was kind of,
but I think that's why they did it that
100%.
Way. Because in the 100%. Book, it is not.
It is not. And maybe that's more likened to the time, because this is the 1800s. Yeah. I mean, women had no say in their bodies and what happened to them.
And so for him to have no control, it's hard.
Like, now?
And then at the end of that, she goes and he goes, but he's gone. They don't see each other for like 2 months after this happens.
She goes back to London to be by her family, and he's like, if your little trick worked, write me a letter and let me know you're pregnant. And in the book, doesn't Anthony go find him?
Yes.
Yeah.
To bring him the letter. She gives him. Because she was going to send the letter, and then Anthony shows up, and then he brings the letter. And then, of course, Simon races back to her and thinks that she's at the Bridgerton house, but she's not. She's actually at the home. The
Hastings house
they live. And so he goes home, and she's not home. She's out riding a horse. And he's like, is she crazy? She's pregnant. Why is she riding a horse? And so then he goes after her, and it's like kind of funny though, because she's like, I can hear someone behind me, so I'm riding faster. But you know what's interesting about that scene is that scene reminds me of the scene that's in the second season when Anthony is running after. And I was like, why did they... And then I was like, so they're going to take some freedoms of like different books maybe and
Do you think
meshing
also
them.
they weren't sure if they were going to get a second season? So they're like, let's take
Fair.
our favorite parts and just throw them in the first one
Fair.
just in case.
But I loved that scene. That scene is such a vital part to them figuring out, like, we're being stupid. Like,
yeah. And she gets knocked off the horse from the tree branch. And she's
and
like,
she knows she's not pregnant at that point, and he's just kind of like, "Are you stupid? Like, why are you doing
You're
this?
pregnant. You
Like,
shouldn't be on a
pregnant.
horse."
You're with child."
yeah.
And she's just kind of like, "No, and I think like all of that kind of, they yell at each other, they have this whole thing,
Yeah.
and then they both just kind of realize like, wait, we love each other, and we can't let my father run my life."
Yeah. And there's like
And they show up back at their house, and the three brothers are in their house.
ready to kick their ass.
That
They're like,
is-
we're going upstairs. And they're like, we're still going to kick your ass. And
That's
she's
by
like,
far the best
it's
scene.
so funny.
I wish
They're
that was
so
in the
brothers.
show. I
They're
wish.
just like the most
Because-
brotherly brothers.
And then also, like, who walks in after the brothers? The mother. And
Even
the mom's
better.
like, get out of their house.
They-
What are you doing here?
It's so good.
It's-
It's really good.
It shows, I think, like that scene, and this is in the book, obviously not in the show if you've seen the show. That scene perfectly, like, it just describes the dysfunction of a big family of people who all love each other.
This is coming from two people with enormous families when it comes to
and
siblings.
like, I have two brothers. I don't have three brothers, but I have two brothers, and like, I know the chaos that is all of the siblings coming together, and like, if something's going wrong, like, everybody is there. Every single person is there in a heartbeat.
Every time I had a breakup or I have 5 sisters.
Yeah.
Every single time one of us was getting dumped or everybody was there.
It was a thing. It was like
the
a whole thing.
family.
Yes.
My parents are divorced. My dad would suddenly be there. Doesn't live there, but he would suddenly be there.
Yeah.
It is just, when you live in a big family like that, a loving big family like that.
Close-knit, yes.
Yeah. And there's also something I want to touch on that, like, sounds silly, but some of these characters that are like Cressida and the prince, and, of course the prince doesn't exist because Queen Charlotte doesn't exist, and she's his nephew.
Right.
But, like, I really like their storylines and how I just like their additions. I did the same thing. We're drinking iced coffee,
guys. I also just
guys.
gulped really loud. I'm sorry.
This is This is 4D. Welcome to the 4D Bridgerton podcast.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. I do. I love
just really like it.
whoever plays the prince. I don't know who that actor is, but he's precious.
He's adorable, and the way he said he's truly happy for her.
He's like a very
You
genuine
shut up, you little
character.
cutie pie.
Yeah, he's so cute.
You little cutie chicken nugget.
The way he like just talks to her and stuff. I love it. I love. Oh, also,
gosh.
I just looked at my notes and remembered this.
By the way,
thing.
her name was Marina.
Marina.
What was I saying? Mariners?
But I had a hard time with that one too. So the whole like premise of this book is that the Duke and Daphne come together and fake a courtship so that like people, so she can find a suitor and he'll be left alone. No one knows about this except for the Duke and Daphne. However, in the book,
Anthony
her
knows.
brother knows about
Anthony
it.
knows.
And he's not okay with it, but he kind of like lets it go. And what's interesting is in the book, the scene that they're getting it on in the garden. Well, it's not the garden. They're on like a little outside area. He full on starts stripping her down.
Yeah, he does.
And in the show, the stripping down doesn't really start. There's a lot of touching.
Things, yeah.
But she's fully topless.
Her boobs are out, and her brother sees her boobs, and she's like, "Oh, I can't believe you've seen my breasts."
Which, if you think about that,
I don't have brothers, but could you imagine one of your brothers seeing your boobs? You'd die.
I
You'd
would die. I would die. I mean, to be fair, like that's never happened. I've definitely walked in on the opposite.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you walked on your brother doing it.
No, oh my God.
I was going to say Dale. That's dark.
That's a different topic. No, like I needed to get something out of the bathroom and they were taking forever, so I go to get, and then he was hiding behind the door, and that's where I needed to go, and didn't know that he was behind the door, so it was really quick. Like, oh, that's
sugar,
my brother, get out. I never saw anything, but to be fair, like that's that's pretty
mortifying,
embarrassing.
I feel like we can't.
But also, that was pretty hot.
So hot.
That scene. Whew, in
also,
the book,
just having your boobies out in a garden.
I mean, he was having his way with her.
He was a little rough in the book.
He was. Because he was burning for her from the first time he sees her. Literally, the first chapter of the book, when they first meet,
he's like, that's my best friend's sister, that's my best friend's sister. He has to tell himself,
he continuously has to tell himself, why am I thinking about her lips and wanting to put my lips on hers.
Ooh,
and
girl.
all this stuff. And so I think that's a huge part of it. Well, for sure,
we can't talk about this without talking about Lady Whistledown.
Yeah.
And so we find out at the end of this season that it is Penelope Featherington, played by Nicola Coughlan, who's gorgeous. But I think I know why they did that, because you don't find out in the books until book 4.
Yeah, and also it's not.
And they have to set this up, because if they are going to make Penelope and Colin's story.
Yes.
And in the, so Eloise thinks it's the chick from Modiste, right?
Yes.
That's who she thinks it is. But in the books, everyone thinks it is Eloise.
Yes.
So I think without Queen Charlotte, they had to, you know what I mean? They added Queen Charlotte, so it had to kind of switch around. But also, you had to have that yearning for Penelope.
Yes.
You would not, if she had not become Lady Whistledown, you would be like, oh, she's so sweet and she loves Colin. But you get a completely different side of her thinking that she's Lady Whistledown at the end of the season, because you're like, oh no, she's dark.
Yeah.
She is a dark girl.
Well, and I think the storyline there too, right? I think because in the first book, you're not getting Penelope or Eloise's relationship. You don't get that at all. You don't get it all. That's not in the book.
I love their friendship.
And it's such a sweet yeah, it's a very
and
sweet.
Poor Penelope, her mom always puts her in the wrong colors. We've really been obsessed with finding our color wheel, guys. So if you guys see any of this, you want to tell us what our color wheel is, we're really dying to know what our color wheel is. But
yellow is not her color.
And they say in the book that the mom purposely puts her in these colors.
Yes.
And it's also funny that there's 4 Featherington sisters in the books. In the show, there's only 3, so bye, Felicity Featherington, you're dead. But with your dad.
Too many.
Too many.
Too many of you.
But I mean, we've been watching, I don't know about you, have you been watching the trailer for season 3?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Colin. What?
When did
Beefcake Academy?
Where did he go?
Did they
ship them off somewhere?
Hot Man Academy? I don't know.
I mean, because if we're being
Is he
honest,
being trained by a Hemsworth?
Like the guy that plays Anthony. His name is Anthony, guys. But Anthony, he
super hot for his season.
He was he was fine in the first season. He was fine, but then in the second season, you're like, what?
I'm sorry, what? Who art thou?
I'm sorry, what?
I can't get over how freaking hot Nicola Coughlan looks in these things. She is just like a smoke show.
Also, she's 37.
She's the same age as I am?
Yes.
She looks like she's
20.
What?
One?
Girl, what is your skincare
People
regimen?
People are saying, can you please tell us?
Did you shave a baby's ass and put that skin on your face?
Do you put babies...
anything? It doesn't make sense.
No.
Okay.
And also, skin of an angel.
God, she's so beautiful. To me, that is what the women of that time looked like.
Yes.
She was gorgeous, curvy, gorgeous, beautiful, full-figured.
Yes, because curves meant wealth.
Yeah.
If you were a curvy woman, you were a wealthy woman.
You had money to eat.
Men wanted curvy women.
It meant that you could breed well.
When you look at old portraits, women would put on fat suits for the portrait because in that society, having a large wife was a show of your wealth and your sperm. What's that word I'm trying to say?
Your vitality. Can you make all them babies?
what is that word? Why can't I?
Testosterone?
No.
I don't know what you're trying to say.
Your ability to have children.
Your baby making ability? Your bang ability?
Your fertility.
Fertility.
That's
a pretty important word.
That's important. So like that in it of itself, and I think also like in Hollywood, there's such a like unnatural standard for women's bodies. Like if a woman has any kind of curve to them, they're instantly put in a category of like,
oh, you're plus
size,
mid-size.
And it's like, no, she's just a real woman.
And she's so beautiful. And also crossover to our Princess Diaries episode.
Yeah.
Our girl, Julie Andrews, is the voice of Lady Whistledown.
Yes. Of course.
She's like the most incredible human. I just want to be her when I grow up.
Come on. That's like a
I really want to be here. And who's your least favorite like fake addition? Like fake addition to the thing. I loved the boxing story. I wish that was in the book because boxing was so popular then. And I love that Simon has a best friend who's a professional boxer and the way they bring in Mr. Featherington. But I really hated him. I hated Mr. Featherington so much. I wish they would have left him dead.
I didn't think it was needed for Anthony to have a love interest.
But he does in the books. It does mention that he has someone that he visits with his apartment on the bad side of the town.
Yes.
So, but you don't know who that is.
But let me correct myself. I don't like the fact that they made him seem so in love with this girl.
I got it. Yes.
I don't think, however, in the second book, right, his story, which we'll talk about, that's literally, he has this aversion to love because he doesn't want to be in love because love brings pain. And so like that storyline, as much as I was like, was that needed? It made me realize that like, I think it needed to be there so that you understood.
I think you're right.
Because in that situation, it was free. There was no commitment there. So he felt feelings freely. Whereas in a marriage, if you love that person and then you lose that person,
it's the ultimate pain.
That's what his
mother went through. Yeah.
And so like that storyline was harder for me because I was just like, I don't understand why that needs to be such a big part of the storyline. And then also I'm curious to see where they go with Benedict because his storyline in the first show, he's not really in the book. He's mentioned.
Yes.
But that storyline, that he's an artist and that he's like, clearly he's very
he and Eloise
fluent.
And he and Eloise can bond over the fact that they don't want the normal lifestyle.
Yes.
And he's sexually fluid.
Yes.
And he's like, he's just along for what the world has to offer.
Life.
And I also think that there's a beauty in the fact that we're seeing the sides of these characters so that when it is their season, we're already set up to love, like to know them.
Yes.
And so I felt that way with Anthony. Like I knew I was like, oh, he's never going to find a wife. Like, he's
right.
So sad about losing love. And if I had not seen that relationship, I don't think I would have felt the same way.
Yeah. Fair.
And I don't think they're expecting everybody to read the books. Like,
oh, no, not at all. Because if they did, then they would, like, people would know what's going on.
Oh my God, I can't wait for season 3.
And then, I know. I'm excited too. Also, I mean, like, I have to, like, tread very thinly because a lot of the things that I want to talk about are actually in book 2.
For book 2.
Yeah. Another topic we can talk about, though, is the soundtrack.
You took every popular song for the time of 2020.
Yeah.
Made it a string quartet.
Yeah.
And Say You'll Remember Me. Standing and they are outside in that grotto in the rain. I'm just like,
so good.
My God.
When I first started watching this show, it's funny. I had it on pretty loudly, and so you could hear all the music and other things. And I'll never forget. My husband walked out and he was like, "What are you listening to? It sounds like they took pop songs and made them instrumental." And I was like, "Yep.
That's exactly what they did, sir.
Exactly what they did." He's like, "But that's not period." I'm like, "Yes,
that's
it
the
is.
Best part of it.
Yes,
sir.
it is. This is the best part of the show, and it brought so much feeling and emotion to the scenes that I loved it. I loved it. And the visuals of this show.
And the vitamin string quartets, Ariana Grande, thank you next. Are you kidding me?
So good. But like
and the
visual,
colors,
the cherry blossoms,
and the flowers and the colors of the dresses, it is just so visually pleasing. And the way that it's shot and directed, like
stunning.
Down to the way that he takes that glove off of her hands.
Stop. Chills.
I mean, I'll tell you right now.
Chills.
That is so sexy and sexual.
Yes.
For that time period.
Yes.
Like, could you imagine now if you had a glove and you reached your hand out to your husband and you're like, "Can you remove this?" My fiance would yank it off my hand and be like, "What the hell's wrong with you?"
Yeah. Can't you do that yourself?
I'm sorry. Don't you have two hands?
Bridgerton, the show, does a really, really, really good job of the long anticipation.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of long stares. There's lots of gentle touches. And it builds and builds and builds.
And boy, does it build. Here's the other thing, too, that they do really well. Like, we're talking about the color and the set design and all that kind of stuff. There's also the people in the background.
Yes.
So everyone they've cast in the background is so well done that I find myself watching their reactions in the background just as much as the main characters. And because I've rewatched it now 4,000 times, it's like there's parts where I'm like so excited, like when they're at the balls and they're dancing and
the dances.
The dances and Simon and just like when they have their first ball and it starts raining and their oil painting is like getting covered with water and like just the little
Daphne's
tiny
just laughing.
She's laughing and Lady, what's her name? The lady, and she says, "Everybody go home now." You know,
Danbury?
Yeah, Lady Danbury. She says, "Everybody go home."
Yes,
because they gonna fuck.
Yeah, you know what's really? I also really enjoy the fact that my brain is just went a little bit foggy for a second.
Because you were thinking about Simon in the Rain. I know what had happened.
I love the way that Daphne, like Simon's character and Daphne's character are so perfectly written for each other. And I think like when you read the book, obviously you pick up on that pretty quickly because there's a lot of internal dialogue, which you're not getting in the show. But I love how, for starters, the casting of the characters was so well done that they fit together so perfectly, but her personality and Simon's personality, it's such a like, Daphne is like such a loving, kind, like deeply kind person.
At her soul.
Simon, at his soul, he is, but he has that like hard exterior because he was hurt so terribly by his whole
horrendous
life, really.
Father, yes,
and has no concept of what love is. And Daphne just does the most beautiful way, like she just loves him so well.
She loves his flaws. She loves it, like everything about him.
I don't even, and I think like you see it the most when there's like little moments of like he's feeling all these things and like she's just present. She doesn't leave. She lets
him feel his feels.
Like
and she's there for him.
There's no fear of him. Like there's no like, you know, you're broken, you aren't perfect. There's none of that. And it's just I don't know. I just really...
It's a really beautiful love story.
It really is. It's very well done. And I mean, clearly she's got 8
I
books.
can't say, like, I'm going to straight up say this is a both for me. Watch it or read it, both. Like,
yeah.
Like, mandatory both.
And I almost feel like I'm also going to say both. I think that you should read it before you watch it.
I think the whole universe has watched it.
Unless, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Unless you have a hard time with jumping ahead, then please just watch it. Because if you read it, then you're going to be like, wait a second.
Hold on a hot minute here.
I know what happens here.
Yeah. And there is definitely something to be said about the world of Bridgerton.
Yes.
That visually, I'm so glad that I had the show first because I can.
Yes.
All I saw were those characters.
It puts you in that world.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is definitely a both. I'm just going to say that. That's a both.
And also a very quick, like the book is a very quick read.
Super quick.
Very quick. I couldn't put it down. And I've already seen the show a couple times.
The second book I read even faster.
Yes. And the third.
Okay. I'm not there yet, but okay.
But the third isn't the third in the seasons. So I did a whoopsie because I wasn't realizing.
Shit, you're right.
Yes. So you have to go to the fourth.
No, I'm going to read it in the book order too.
You need to.
Okay, great.
You need to.
And then we'll revisit when we get there.
I still have to read 4, but.
Sugar.
Yeah.
Okay.
You need to.
I want that story more, so that's fair. But I'm really excited for the Colin.
I mean, 3 though is we're not going to talk about it.
Okay. All right, so we're saying both.
Read it, watch it.
Watch it, and follow us on the socials.
Yeah, do it up. And we'll be back next week for a second part.
Oh, yes, this is a 2-parter.
Yeah.
So we're going to do the second book, The Viscount Who Loved Me, and then we're going to take a little break.
Yeah.
And then when we come back from the break, we're obviously starting the break with Bridgerton season 3.
Yeah.
And book 4?
Yeah, book 4. We can chat a little bit about book 3 just because I think that's
going to be the season after, right?
We're going to have, I think they're skipping it altogether.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'll explain myself on our future episodes.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah. Okay, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Our editor is Katie Yonner. Our associate producer is Grace Heerman. Our production coordinator is Nicole Vargas. And our senior content producer is Kyle Bosch. Our executive producer is Tommy West. And Watch It or Read It is produced by Gotham West Studios.